universities all around are adopting speech policies to prevent harassment and sexual discrimination against people. But the fact that these universities are adapting these speech policies, which are often written in such ways that tend to be very vague, are leading the way to censorship of free speech. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Education is an organization that is nonpartisan and nonprofit, which deals with issues relating to the censorship of free speech on university campuses. In their 2015 speech code spotlight, they analyzed 437 U.S. universities and rated them on a scale of how, if they had policies which violated the First Amendment. The rating scale is based on red light being universities that have policies that unambiguously have discrimination against free speech. Yellow being universities that have some problematic policies, and green light being that they don't really have any issues when it comes to the censorship of free speech. In 2013, the United States Department of Justice and Education issued a letter in a settlement over the University of Montana's dealings with sexual harassment claims and assault on the campus, which they designed to be a blueprint for colleges and universities through the country to protect students from sexual harassment and assault. And it explained, it had wording in it basically stating that any unwelcome conduct of sexual nature can be considered harassment. Meaning that if someone were to be talking about something in class in like a classroom setting, they would be liable to this policy. My two main claims for these universities adopting these speech policies leading the way to censorship of free speech are policies are often written in a way that are vague and uncertain, so that they cover a very broad basis. My second claim would be, or that will support it, is that these policies are often created and lead to a environment on campuses that discourages the discussion of conflicting ideas. An example of where these sexual harassment and assault policy has been abused is that in 2011, a professor at the University of Denver was filed for having was charged with being sexual harassment for his discussion on sexual taboos in American culture in the class he was teaching. What happened was that he was teaching this class and a couple students anonymously left a tip or a complaint stating that he was creating an environment that was harmful to those who were sensitive to things relating to sexual assault and harassment. A second case in which it was used, or where universities were using their policies on to try not to offend, is a case where Appalachian State University professor from Appalachian State University was suspended for criticizing the sexual assault cases when related to the sports and athletes, and showing a documentary that was critical of the adult film industry. Students filed claims stating that she was creating an environment which was hostile by discussing these topics. A third case in which these policies that are often written were written vaguely to censor speech is a case where a university at Brandeis University, or a professor at Brandeis University, was found guilty of racial harassment for criticizing the use of the word wetbacks in a class about Latin American politics. The university used these claims that the fact that some people may be offended by these ideas, they should be accounted for, even if it's just one or two people. Bringing up words like this is unacceptable based on that fact. In an article written by Ray Lukanoff and Jonathan Haidt in the Atlantic, which discussed the coddling of university students in order to prevent them from seeing or hearing words that they could find offensive, stated that the ultimate aim seems to turn campuses into safe spaces where young adults are shielded from words and ideas that make some uncomfortable. And more than the last, this movement seeks to punish anyone who interferes with the aim, even accidentally. It is creating a culture in which everyone must think twice before speaking up, lest they be faced with charges of insensitivity, aggression, or worse. Basically meaning that if someone is offended by something that you say, no matter how small, these universities are creating an environment that allows for students to act on this offense and file complaints towards these people, which can ruin careers. And in conclusion, the fact that many of these laws or policies are written in such a way that they're vague and allow for punishment of speech that is protected under the First Amendment, and discouraging discussion of conflict or ideas that could be conflicting among people, is creating or is leading the way to censorship of free speech in universities.
All right, Andrew, the subject is clear. I think it takes a while to get the proposition as clear as it should be, but at the end of the speech, it's much clearer. I like the fact that you came back to that at the exit line and reminded us what the point was. That helped quite a bit because I thought it was ambiguous at the beginning. The preview of the supporting structure takes 3 minutes to get to, so there's a lot of background information that you're giving before you get to the crux of your argument, and you're going to have to do some editing to be able to get to those things a little bit more efficiently. It's reasonably well structured once you get to the body of the speech. You explain concepts, I think, pretty well. There's some interesting information. The examples are okay, although a couple of the examples don't seem like we finished. I don't know what happened to that professor at the University of Denver, and I know there was a complaint at Appalachian State, but what was the outcome on that particular thing? I think you need to give us that sort of information. I had the same problem with the opening information where you've got the organization that you're citing, and I thought I was going to hear from them a lot more since you spent time giving them credibility, and then I never really heard from them again. And you went through this whole explanation of how they do these ratings, and they got red, yellow, and green, and then I didn't hear any data about what schools got rated, red, yellow, or green, or how many of them there were, that sort of thing. So having provided that, I was just waiting for something that would follow up on it. And I think there's probably information there for you to use, but it's not getting put into the presentation. Your concepts are all explained, and I do like the testimony that you used on the last point, talking about how it appears that there's coddling of students in an attempt to create a safe space, that it actually is counterproductive to the function of what a university is. And that's the point that I think you're trying to make at the end. As you probably know, it did go substantially over time. I just need to mention that. It was 9:26, so it's more than 50% over the time. All right, thank you.